In other news this hour, South Africa's education sector struggles to retain learners. Every year, a large number of pupils enter the schooling system, but not all of them finish with matric. The Zero Dropout Campaign says this trend should not be normalized and much more needs to be done to adequately address the issue. To speak more on this, I'm joined now by Rahima Aesop from the Zero Dropout Campaign. Rahima, good afternoon and thank you very much for your time. Of course, we do know that education is a very basic right that's enshrined in our Constitution. I think it's Section 27 of the Constitution enshrines the right to education. But the school dropouts continue to impact our society. How bad is a dropout rate currently and how widespread?
Good afternoon, Dan, and thank you for having me on Human Rights Day. Even before the pandemic, 4 out of 10 learners who would start school in grade 1 would drop out before completing matric. And dropout, as you mentioned, has been normalized in many of our communities, deepening intergenerational poverty, joblessness, and inequality. And on Human Rights Day, as we reflect on what we need to do to ensure that the right to basic education is not only spoken about in the abstract, but is also realized in the everyday experiences of our children, from small villages in the far corners of South Africa to the economic heartlands of the country. All children have the right to basic education, and we must ensure that this right is realized, from enrollment to the provision of quality basic education and to being supported to stay in and succeed at school. The fact that we have large grade 8 classes but the numbers dwindle by the time that they get to matric shows us the extent of the problem in South Africa. This is a pre-COVID problem that requires a holistic and multifaceted approach led by national government, but supported by civil society. Is there an understanding by those various role players, for example, you've just mentioned, understanding of the causes? What are the causes of dropout? As you correctly say, the dropout rates have been with us even before the pandemic. So we always say that dropout doesn't happen overnight. It comes at the end of a long process of disengagement in which a learner is pushed or pulled away from school because of factors at home, at school, or in their communities. And we need to understand the factors that are driving dropout. We know that the underlying factors that are causing dropout are inequality and poverty. And we need to be able to preempt and prevent dropout by having early warning systems that can tell us when a learner is becoming disengaged, so that that learner can then be enrolled in the right type of support services, whether it's academic support or psychosocial support, or perhaps they need to be referred to other state-sponsored services. Now, you asked whether there is a general understanding about about what dropout is. Our campaign is here to raise awareness about dropout and to change perceptions about the causes of dropout, so that we can promote solutions in school spaces, in communities, and as well as policy changes that are necessary to ensure that we have a reduction in our dropout rate.
Yeah, I've seen a report where you were quoted, Rahima Aesop, saying that one of the issues is the shrinking, as you've mentioned now, of classes between grades 12 and 12, which is not good. But you are saying this is why, therefore, it's important for us to make those learners who are disappearing from the schooling system visible. What do you mean by that?
We need a coordinated national dropout prevention plan and an accelerated learning strategy that's attuned to learners' needs. We need to make the prevention or the reduction of dropout an explicit goal of our education system. You know, Dan, as education activists and researchers and advocates, when the impact of the pandemic started to show in terms of learning losses and high rates of absenteeism and out-of-school learners, we wrote an urgent open letter to the Minister of Basic Education, saying that we need to stop regressions of the right to basic education, which has been made worse by the pandemic. And we called for this national dropout prevention strategy to be led by national government and, of course, supported by us. And there are various things that need to happen at different levels of society. At a national government and policy level, we need to make dropout an explicit goal of the schooling system, and the availability of accurate and reliable data allows for accountability within the sector. And the best way to promote accountability, and we've said this before, is to make dropout a key performance indicator. We also need to see budgetary commitments to make this a reality. And at a school level, Dan, we need to institute early warning systems, which I mentioned earlier will help educators to tell when a learner is becoming disengaged and is at high risk of dropping out.
Yeah, and part of that is to strengthen, I guess, psychosocial support as we conclude. I think we can't forget that. I don't know how well that's being addressed at the moment. If you may answer that very briefly.
Absolutely, you hit the nail on the head there. Strengthening psychosocial support is an important factor when it comes to this dropout prevention plan. There are three things that need to happen, and I'll just recap that quickly. It's making dropout a key performance indicator. It's improving our data collection and monitoring, and absolutely it is strengthening psychosocial support, because as I mentioned, dropout comes at the end of a long process of disengagement, and that disengagement is caused by various factors in the learner's personal life, at home, at school, or in their community, and just being able to support them, not only academically, but also in terms of their emotional and psychological needs, is absolutely important.
Yeah, I mean, it is, after all, education. It's a constitutionally guaranteed right. Thank you very much for your views there. That's Rahima Esop.